Alright, this is the first of two videos on transformations of exponential and logarithmic functions. So from the first semester of Algebra 2, we've dealt with transformations before. Now we're just applying them to exponential and log functions. So a quick little review just to make sure we still remember. Remember we have A, H, and K that we're worried about. A is always out front. H is usually with the X and K is in the back. So as a quick review, we should probably go through what A, H, and K do. That will make this a lot easier. So A can do two things. That is your vertical stretch or shrink. So that's going to stretch things vertically or shrink them vertically. The other thing A can do, that is, it can reflect over x-axis, and that has to do with a negative sign. The stretch is always numbers bigger than 1. The shrink is numbers between 0 and 1 is what shrink it. So you can reflect over the x-axis. H is going to slide or translate left and right. So that's going to slide or translate left and right. And last, K will slide or translate up or down. So looking at what we have here, it's hard to tell with all the letters here, but notice how A, I mentioned, is always out front. So we have an exponential function here with a base B, or an exponential function here with a natural base E. Notice that A is always out front. Same down here with log with some arbitrary base. We still have A is always located out front. And then your H, I mentioned how, hey, that's usually with the X, so like X minus H. Notice, in this case, the X was up in the exponent, so H is up in the exponent. X is up in the exponent here, so H is up in the exponent. And then here, if you deal with that, notice how we have X minus H. H is right there with X. And then finally, how I mentioned K is always in the back, K is in the back, K is in the back. So outside of these exponents, outside of the parentheses here with the log. So K is in the back. So at the bottom here, we're going to identify the transformations. So we went from f of x equals e to the x to f of x equals e to the x minus 3 plus 4. So we need to describe how do we go from this function to this new function. What transformation was made? So the first thing I notice is all of a sudden I got this minus 3 there. So I need to identify, is that A, H, or K? The quicker I identify that, and if I can recall what A, H, and K do, it makes this easier. So this x minus 3, notice how the H is with the x up in the exponent. I know that is going to be H, so slide left and right. But remember, H kind of lies to you. It's deceptive. Even though it says minus 3, we're talking about sliding left and right. And when you think of the x, y, coordinate plane, if you're thinking negative 3, you're thinking, oh, we're going to the left. But remember, H lies to you. So we're actually not sliding left, but that minus 3 is going to slide everything right by 3. It's always the opposite there. The other piece we have there is that we have up in the exponent, x minus 3. Then we have this plus 4 kind of out here on the end. It's in the back, and as I just talked about, K is in the back. Well, K is a slide up and down, and K does not lie to you, so when you see plus 4, that means we are sliding up by 4. You could also say translate up by 4, same thing. One more quick example. I have a base function of log base 2 of x, and now I have a function negative 3 log base 2 of x. So looking at what's new, so just kind of comparing, all of a sudden I added these pieces up there. Notice how they are located out front. Well, we talked about how A was always out front. So I know I'm dealing with A, but there's actually two pieces here that I'm worried about. The first piece I'm worried about is that negative sign. And when dealing with A, remember, it could be a vertical stretch or shrink, or it's reflect over the x-axis. When you have that negative sign, what that means is we are reflecting over x-axis. The other piece we have to explain there is that 3, that multiplier of 3. So I already dealt with the negative. I don't care about that. I care about the 3. So still dealing with A, I know it's a stretch or a shrink, so I just got to figure out, is 3 a stretch or a shrink? The way you could think of it is if you took your height and multiplied it by 3, would you get taller or shorter? Well, I would get taller, so that is a vertical stretch by 3. And that is the first video on transformations of exponential and logarithmic functions.